Hi, I'm Rich Torrey. Welcome to another Level Up Cartooning. All you ever need to follow along with me is a pencil and paper. It doesn't get any easier than that, right? If you've been with me so far in 2024, then you know we've been having fun drawing characters from children's books and then the animated version of those characters. We'll get back to more of those lessons, but I happened to come across a post talking about the humble beginnings of the Nickelodeon network, and well, being wildly ADD, I just had to draw some of those early cartoon classics, all of which were favorites of my kids growing up. I don't think I was aware of the fact that for the first 12 years of Nickelodeon, they never featured a single cartoon. Then in 1991, they took a chance on 3 cartoon shows: Ren and Stimpy, Rugrats, and the show we're going to feature today, Jim Jenkins' masterpiece, Doug. Doug ran on Nickelodeon from 1991 to 94 before the rights to the show were purchased by Disney, where it became brand spanking new Doug, running for 3 more seasons. In the Disney version, Doug aged about a year, and the characters took on a bit of a different look. Today we'll be drawing the Nick version of Doug and his dog Porkchop and Doug's best female friend and lifelong not-so-secret crush, Patti Mayonnaise. There are literally zillions of great characters in this show, and at some point we may get around to drawing more of them, but I think these 3 will do nicely for now. Anyways, before we get started, make sure you hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button, as it helps this channel to grow, and hit the bell so you never miss a lesson. Alright then, what do you say we get started drawing from Nickelodeon's first season of cartoon shows, Doug, Porkchop, and Patti Mayonnaise, from Doug. We're going to draw Doug, Porkchop, and Patti step by step, giving you the secret formula to be able to draw them again and again. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know I normally use the character's head to figure out how big the entire character is. After studying a bunch of model sheets and stills, I think, if anything, Patti is a bit taller than Doug, but not by much. That said, they're both roughly 4 heads tall. In other words, however tall their heads are, their entire bodies are about 4 of those tall. Porkchop is a little under 3 heads tall. In other words, however tall his head is, he's a little under 3 of those tall. One last thing to point out. You'll notice in this exercise, while I do draw a line to define both Doug and Porkchop's heads in the first step, the roadmap, after that, I use the roadmap to guide me as to where to draw their hair. It is their hair that then defines the top of their head, but there is no line defining it, so just look for that. Anyway, what do you say we draw a roadmap for Doug Funnie and his dog Porkchop and Patti Mayonnaise from Doug? So there's a roadmap for Doug, Patti, and Porkchop. Now before we go on to step 2, I want to give you the layout of our characters' simple shapes. For those of you who want a screen grab. Again, just something to help you envision how to lay out your drawing. Okay, so now we're on to step 2. In this step, we do what I call roughing out the features. I want to remind you that until the 3rd and final step, you want to draw as light as possible. You'll see that I use guidelines to help me to know how to construct Doug, Porkchop, and Patti. We don't want those guidelines in the final drawing, so you want to draw them light enough to be able to erase them easily. Okay, so let's rough out the features for Doug, Porkchop, and Patti from Doug. Okay, so they're the roughed out features for Doug, Porkchop, and Patti from Jim Jenkins' classic, Doug. So now with the roadmap done and the features roughed out, it's time for that final step. In step 3, we get to have fun. We get to draw in the final details of Doug, Porkchop, and Patti. We don't have to guess where to put things because we've already done all the hard work figuring that out. As I often say, I want you to be present. And what I mean by that is you don't want to just mindlessly retrace over the lines you've already drawn. As you're drawing the final line of your characters, you want to be thinking about how you might improve them, staying vigilant until the very end. Okay, so let's draw in the details for Doug, Porkchop, and Patti Mayonnaise. And that's how you do it. There you have it. Doug Funnie, his dog Porkchop, and Patti Mayonnaise from one of Nickelodeon's first cartoon series ever, Doug. So how do you think you did? Understand if you've never drawn any character from Doug before, then you can't expect to have drawn them perfectly. You notice I don't spend time coloring Doug, Porkchop, or Patti during this video because I want my lesson to focus solely on the drawing process. Now you have the secret formula, the process for drawing Doug, Porkchop, and Patti Mayonnaise from Doug. And with that, you can draw them again and again. And by all means, color them when you're done. I promise each time you draw them, it'll be a little better and a little easier. I also promise the more you work with me, the better you're going to get at all of your cartoon characters. So I'd love to see your drawings of Doug, Porkchop, and Patti Mayonnaise. If you can, take a picture and post it on either Facebook or Instagram. And don't forget to include the hashtag #LevelUpCartooning. I hope you had as much fun as I did with this one. Remember to subscribe and thanks for joining me. Until next time, keep drawing, my friends.